We start today with the first topic, Russia's war against Ukraine. And Russia escalated attacks on Kiev, leaving parts of the capital without heating in freezing temperatures. And all of that happened few days before planned talks of President Zelensky and President Donald Trump in Florida, which happened yesterday. And my question to both of you, as an opening question, is this escalation, you think, and the behavior of Russia is designed to have a peace, to have a peace talks, or to shut them down? Wael, could you start, please?
Thank you for having me on the show. Yaro, I believe it is a tactic by Russia maybe to get more concessions from Ukraine and this war, because there are two plans actually on the table. One plan is by President Trump, who's speaking of his own terms and understanding of the conflict, when he wanted Ukraine to concede some of the territories to Russia to end this war. And the other counter plan is from the European Union, where they have stated different pictures from what the Americans have said. However, having said that, I still believe that the American president believes that he can break a peace deal between the two countries, and it is very much on the table, and he feels more close than ever. But I believe the European, in particular Germany, France, Poland, even UK, are not favoring the US plan for ending this conflict.
But do you think, we'll go to you, Sanjay, in a second, but while do you think that Russia is serious about peace, or rather continuing the war?
I think Russia is serious about peace if it comes to its own term. Mm-hmm. If they dictate its own terms have been implemented, yes. Otherwise, this war, there is no end to it.
Sanjay, how will you comment it?
My contention is I don't think Russia is keen on peace. They want to have the whole thing. They want to have the war at their own terms. They want to ensure they put pressure on President Trump to ensure that Zelensky falls in line with exactly what the Russians want. In fact, they've been giving
Sanjay, we have some connection problems, so I will return to Wael, and meanwhile we will try to improve connection. Wael, could you please tell me your opinion on the today's state of diplomacy? Is it a new form of diplomacy, the diplomacy of strength and power, not of the soft negotiations?
Well, absolutely. I believe it is. They believe, maybe the world believe might is right, and that is why they are implementing the war in achieving a political solution, which is not possible in the current scenario, especially imposing peace on nations where they wanted to concede their territories, especially for Zelensky. He will face lots of backfire at home if he agreed to such kind of a plan. And in any case, even if he has to accept it, he has to give it for the for debate or for approval of the parliament in Ukraine. Therefore, he's in a very sticky situation, and catch-22, as we say. But I don't think that for a comprehensive and durable peace, such kind of policy or diplomacy can be implemented in the true spirit. And therefore, we need to take the historical background and the introspective of this crisis between Russia and Ukraine to understand what kind of peace we can achieve in that part of the world.
Okay, so we return to Sanjay. So you started to say about the Russia's perspective, how you see it. Please continue.
I hope my voice carries through to you.
Yeah, now it's
I don't
perfect.
think Russia is very. I don't think Russia is very keen to have the peace in the right sense of the word. They would like to they would like to persuade President Trump to do it in their terms. They want part of the territory which they have taken. They want to ensure that Mr. Zelensky falls in line, and everything happens as they want. They don't want any kind of commitment on the part of the West to make Ukraine a member of the EU or of NATO or anybody. They want to make it sure that they give a telling blow to Ukraine in such a manner that the 4 or 5 European powers which are trying to put pressure on Russia as well as US are not able to dictate terms. So it's going to be a very difficult situation for the US or for that matter European powers to have the peace talks in the way they want to do it. It's a
And
very tricky situation.
in the
And
perspective
that
you
is not
described,
something like
do you think that diplomacy, U.S. diplomacy or European diplomacy, could be effective to end this war?
I am not very sure how US will try to stop the war because primarily there's an impression which is gaining ground all over the world that Trump and Putin are together on Zelensky and Ukraine, and that is why the war is not ending. Because if you remember, just a few days back, Mr. Trump made it amply clear that without US help, Zelensky is zero. He can't do very much. And that is why he thinks that Zelensky would be compelled to fall in line as soon as Mr. Trump agrees to some of the issues that Mr. US is raising in the peace plan. But there are a lot of unstated stuff which has not come out as yet. What exactly does Mr. Putin want? Does he want that Mr. Zelensky and Ukraine do nothing and prostrate themselves in front of the Russian army, and just to content themselves with a slice of the land that they would probably get at the end of it, or they want the land to be restored to Ukraine, which seems to be very unlikely. So Mr. Putin is driving a very hard bargain at the moment. It's not something that one can really be comfortable with whatever he's doing. It's a very difficult situation, but I think there is a certain scaling down which is required if peace is required by the European powers also, because at one hand you have Trump speaking in one voice, on the other you have the European powers that really don't want to ensure that the war ends, and some of them have made attempts that the funds of the Russians are frozen in Brussels. This is something that was stopped by just a whisker. Otherwise, there could have been one more reason for escalation between the powers, Western powers and Russia. So if you ask me, this doesn't look very good at the moment, despite the fact that Putin and Trump give an impression they're coming to closer, but I don't think it's really happening. Nothing has really moved in the last 3 years, except many people have died on both sides.
Right. So it's not very optimistic. Both of you are saying that this war will not end very quickly, meaning the diplomacy will not be so effective. So let's move to another part of the world. And China has imposed sanctions on US, especially on companies and individuals because of the sales to Taiwan of some weaponry arms. And now the tensions are rising, and my question is going to Mr. Awad. Is it just a symbolic, the sanctions is it rather symbol or a game, or we are going deeper inside of the US-China conflict?
Well, I think the United States made it very clearly. Many reports have come from US that China is preparing to invade Taiwan by 2027, which commemorate the 100 years of the Chinese Year of Shames, that they call it, and they wanted to make sure that the Taiwan is become part of the integral part of the Mother China. So the United States have been saying it for some time. And it has been actually a dispute between the U.S. position and the Chinese position in regard to Taiwan, because United States, if you remember, 1971, have agreed with Nixon, President Nixon, that Taiwan is a part of the integral part of China. But at the same time, they had a law that they should not be by force. Taiwan should be taken by China by force. So therefore, the United States continued to supply arms to Taiwan, and they have given sophisticated arms. That's why the Chinese are very upset, and they know they increase the anti-American sentiment in the China as much as the anti-Chinese sentiment are increasing in the United States under Trump administration, with the tariff, with the trade conflicts, with the dominance of the on the world. And I think that is where the Taiwan issues come to light, because Taiwan will be the unsolved issues for the United States and China, because China consider it a red line. So if anything goes wrong with this settlement of the of taking Taiwan peacefully, Chinese never been denied the fact that they will use even military forces to bring Taiwan into China.
And Sanjay, you are talking from New Delhi, India, and how is this balancing politics between China and the US for India particularly is now affecting these sanctions? Will have India will have to reshape the course, the navigation in this new storm?
India is in a big dilemma at the moment. They are not very sure which side they should go in for, primarily because you have some of the highest tariffs which have been imposed by Trump on India, and there has been a certain lack of warmth between the two countries at the moment. And India is traditionally hostile towards China also. So ideally, in a situation like this, India would have sided with the USA. But over the last few months, there's been a great amount of overtures by the Chinese government towards India, and India also, for that matter, especially the members of an entity called the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa entity, where more countries have joined. So over the last few months, there have been great amount of warmth between the two countries, and India has not made it very clear as to which side they will take, and I'm not sure whether they'll make it public how they perceive the situation between China and US. But I can tell you the man on the street, the people on the street are not very fond of China. They want to do business with China, but don't want to do it. On the other hand, Indians really want to do business with the US, but at the moment, US is not showing the kind of exuberance or warmth that they had shown all these years. I mean, there was some people call it the altruism that the US was displaying towards India. That has gone now, and it is not going to come back anytime soon. But having said that, China is a growing power. India's strength in negotiating with the US was primarily stemming from the fact that it needed to serve as a counterpoint to the Chinese government, to the Chinese technology, Chinese military weapons system. And it has now come to a situation where India seems to be falling between two stools, and they don't have the leverage of the US to take on China, nor the leverage of China to take on the US. So it's a very difficult situation. So in my reckoning, it may take a little while for India to readjust or recalibrate its foreign policy to figure out how far they can go in any direction.
That's all from us for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my colleagues. Big thank you for all these comments. I'm Jarosław Włodarczyk. Stay well and see you next time. Goodbye from Warsaw. Okay, guys.